Hi, I'm Larry Puckett, the DCC guy. Well, as the title of this video indicates, today we're going to be looking at the subject of laying Flextrack on a curve. And I'm going to share with you a very important trick that will allow you to get smooth flowing curves using Flextrack when you have to make a connection on a curve. And most of the time, you're going to end up having to do just that. And if you don't do this trick, you're going to end up with a kink and you're going to get derails all the time. So stick around for the video and see what the trick is. Hit that little red subscribe button, and when the little bell comes up, click on it and click all. Okay, let's get started. And for this, I want to bring you in here real close so you'll be able to see exactly what I'm doing when I lay this Flextrack around this curve here. So come on in and take a close-up look. So as you remember, last time we laid the roadbed on this curve here. And so now we've got the Flextrack. And I've already connected the Flextrack to the end of the straight section back there that I showed you last time, and just brought the track around. I've got a rail joiner here, so we've got to connect these two sections of Flextrack together because it's much longer than 36 inches around this curve. And anytime you're laying curves, you're probably going to run into that situation unless you're using what's called set track. And the limitation with set track is it's typically only available in fairly small radiuses, under 22 inches. But what we've got here then is a 30-inch radius curve. So I don't know of set track available in 30-inch radius. So you're pretty much going to be using Flextrack to go around curves for those type of situations where you can't get set track to make up. And I would use Flextrack anyway instead of set track because it looks a lot better to have a nice flowing curve. What I've done is I've put rail joiners right here where these two pieces of Flextrack come together. Then you want to make sure that your rails are in contact, because what you're going to do is you want this thing set up so that you've got a straight line through the connection where you're making this solder joint. And that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be soldering the rails together using the rail joiner. And that will essentially give us what the railroads use today with welded rails. So we're essentially going to be welding our rails together by soldering them. What this is going to do is we're going to have a straight line through this area where we're going to be joining the rails together. And then once we get this soldered together, then we'll bend it to the curve. And because it is essentially welded together, it's going to give you a nice free-flowing curve through this connection. Now, another thing you're going to want to use is some form of heat sinks. And I've done a video of this in the past, and I'll try to dig it up and put a link up here for you. Now, these are some that I bought a number of years ago, and they just literally clip onto the rails like this, and they dissipate excess heat when you're doing your soldering, like that. Now, these are hard to find anymore. I don't know if they're being made, but you can check on Amazon, you can check eBay, you can check AliExpress, which is the Chinese version of Amazon. Another thing you can use is a pair of hemostats clipped onto the rails here, or you can take an alligator clip like this one here and peel the rubber off. I'm not going to do it because it's a pain in the neck, but you can take that and use it to clip on the rails as a heat sink too. They will take the heat from the rails and take it out to the air and prevent you from melting your ties. And that's very important. Okay, we need to come in a little bit closer because I don't think you can quite see what I'm going to be doing. So let me run around and adjust the camera one more time. Okay, so I've put my rail joiners on here. I've got a straight line through the solder joint, and I've got my old tin of resin, and a lot of the times the stuff you get up at the local Home Depot or Lowe's or other hardware stores is going to be an S made for soldering pipes together. not for electronic work. Okay, so I've put that on the outside of the rail joiners and along the rails. Get this thing closed again. I think I've had this probably 20 years, and it's a good thing because Radio Shack isn't making it anymore. Okay, then I've got my old soldering iron. I'm going to use it. I reserve it for jobs like this, and then I'm going to clean the tip so I've got a nice shiny tip. And then I've got my solder. Now this solder has a resin core, which means it's got resin in it. But I'm going to be applying a lot of heat in order to weld these rails together. So I apply extra resin as a result. And resin's very important because it removes impurities that would contaminate your joint. So make sure you use enough resin flux in order to get a good solder joint. Okay, I can't see what I'm doing over here, so I'm just assuming I'm getting a good one. Now, the way that you know you've got a good joint is when you see solder flow through the back side of the connector here, the rail joiner. Okay, so that one's done. And now I'm going to move my heat sinks and repeat the job over on this side. Hopefully, let's see, yeah. And you can see I've used pins here to hold everything tightly in place while I'm doing this. Okay, one more time here. Now hopefully you'll be able to see the solder flowing into the back side of that rail joiner there. We've got a good clean joint there and one here. So we can take the heat sinks off now. Things have cooled enough. And now I can take my pins out, and then we'll be able to bring this around. So let's go back out to a wider view so you can see that. Okay, so I've zoomed out to give you a better view of what the next step would be. And on this end, as you can see here, I can now bend the track to the curve that I want. And for that, I've already added my rail joiners here. Now these rail joiners, because this is going to be a point where the modules are separated, I'm not going to solder these together. But I will be able to use the rail joiners to hold them in place while I apply my ballast and other cement. And then once it's stabilized, then it won't matter. We can take those joiners off. Or one thing you can do, if you're not regularly moving your layout around, you can just leave the rail joiners in place and let them float free. So these two tracks will be joined right there. And as you can see, we have a nice flowing curve here. There is no kink at all where I made that solder joint here. Okay, so I finally broke down and bought a new putty knife. The old one was getting kind of ratty, so I just decided to invest in a new one. And we can take all of these out and let it float free. So I'm going to have to apply the liquid nail, smooth it out, and then we'll lay the track. So for that, I'm going to disconnect it here, where I've got it connected with rail joiners. And then we'll put that back in place in a few minutes once we've got everything prepared. So once again, we got out our liquid nails for projects. And come on around the curve. Have a good firm contact, particularly at these ends. So that's that. Now let me go ahead and make the connection back here with the rail joiners. There, got it in. Okay, so as you go around the curve, it's going to adjust. And I keep my pins handy to pin stuff into place because you want to get this to follow the curve. Okay, coming around, I know my shoulder's going to be in the way. Okay, let me go around and work on the backside now. Okay, at this point, I can bring it together and slide it into position here. Okay, I think that's in there. Yep, okay, that fell right into position. Okay, now let me loosen these up a bit because I need it to take the curve better. Get these pinned into position, and then we can roll it. And I'm not worried about cement that has gotten up on the ties or on the rails or anything. I'll clean that later. The important thing now is to get everything smooth. That smooth joint right there, the connection. And we'll come out to here. And you just want to get these centered nicely in here. And I'm going to do double pinning right down in here so that this is a very solid joint. Give it a good roll one more time. And now I'll come back around front and we'll finish out there. Okay, I think that's got it. So you can see we've got our nice flowing curve all the way around here to where it joins the other module on the far left. And right there, dead center, is the union or the joint that we made with by soldering the rail joiners in place and then bending the track into its final position. So that's the trick to getting a good flowing curve. Well, that's it for this video. Hopefully you've learned now how you can get nice, smooth, flowing curves on your model railroad when you're laying Flextrack on a curve. And it's very important that you follow this technique because literally 99% of the time, if you try to make a connection on a curve any other way, you're going to end up with a kink and it's going to derail your trains a lot of the time. So give it a try the next time you have to lay Flextrack. Other than that, the next thing on my list of projects to do here is to actually get the track that we've installed wired up so that we can connect it to the DCC system and run a train the full length of the module. In the meantime, have a great weekend and a great week, and I'll see you here in a week or so with another video from the DCC guy. Bye now.